Yo, yo, yo. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, my celestial people. Nice to see you. Welcome back to the Legacy FHP. That is the Legacy Foundation for Human Progress. We are going to, I guess, just kind of have a open conversation, kind of forbidden scrollsy. We'll be taking questions if you guys have any questions. You can type them in the bottom, leave a comment. We'll see it and we'll generate some content based off what you guys want to hear. That's actually why we're doing this live stream. Because I think last stream somebody requested, or somebody might have left a comment saying they want to hear more about the Lucifer Rebellion. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You know me, I'm D-Bake the Wise, joined by my brother Taylor Young, aka Tay-Chilla. Yeah, it's probably working. Yo, yo, yo. Can you hear me? We are reading paper 53 from the Urantia book. The Urantia Foundation. I know, I fixed it right now. Yeah, I just switched it. I was capturing audio from the wrong window. I just switched it. So you should be able to hear yourself. Yeah, you should be fine now. I just wasn't capturing your audio. I can see your levels now. See. No? I'm hearing you on my side. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing your levels pop up in my OBS. It's capturing your audio. Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear Taylor talking or not? People in the chat, help us out. Let's see. No, I can't hear. We're working on it right now. Fuck. Hell yeah, killing it. It's output streaming. Should be able to. One second. All right, let's try that. I turned on your audio track to monitoring and output. Yeah, it is. But talk. Well, we got to keep streaming. I can't stop the stream or else we're not going to figure it out. Sorry, guys. All right, you should keep talking. I switched something. Sorry, guys, if you're tuned in. Having some technical difficulties. Yeah. Sorry, guys, if you're tuned in. Having some technical difficulties. Sorry, guys, if you're tuned. Yeah, it's weird. Mm, yeah, just one, but it's grayed out. Well, I'm streaming. Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. I got you. I can do that in advanced audio properties, right?
Yeah, that's
All
what this
right.
says. Configure audio tracks.
Uh,
Oh, that's normally when we're recording,
we have a split track.
we have an individual split
Yeah.
track for the
So I
recording.
just put us both on
So you
one
need to
right
put them on the
now.
same track. Discord and your mic is on the same track.
See if that worked.
All right. Oh, we got it.
Yeah. You hear yourself?
Yep, I hear it now.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. We're used to recording videos on separate tracks when we live stream. There we go. When we live stream, we have to put it on the same track. We figured it out. Legacy FHP, baby.
Oh, we got it. Yeah,
Solving
the levels
problems.
sound good.
All right. Sorry about
Levels
that,
sound
guys.
matched.
We're so back. So back to what we came here for. Besides learning OBS and its intricacies, if we can figure out the universe, we can figure out OBS, right? Should be cake. But we're talking about the Lucifer rebellion now, and we've been thinking about all of the different UAP angelic stuff that's happening right now. People are wondering where the orbs are coming from, what's actually happening, who's behind all these ET crafts that we're seeing. And we want to kind of give a context on what the stage looks like in the cosmos. So back in the day, they didn't have the term universal government. Jesus said kingdom of heaven. Back in the day, they didn't have the term universe. They used the term heaven. Heaven was the universe, the heavens. They didn't have the term government. They said kingdom, kingdoms. So the kingdom of heaven that Jesus was talking about is the universal government, is the galactic federation. So you have to get that in your mind right now as a cosmic image, as a mental picture. I'm trying to put an image in your mind right now. So receive that. Our the kingdom of heaven is the universal government. Been a bunch of different star systems and planets that are federated, that are organized. I guess about 500,000 years ago, the angel that was in charge of our section of the cosmos was named Lucifer. And I guess he's been alive for billions upon billions. That's weird. I can hear myself
Yeah,
now.
you glitched out for me.
Well, he had been alive for the CIA doesn't want us to talk about us. Um, he had been alive for about billions upon billions of years, and oh shit! Now I'm lagging in my own mind. You take it away, so I can fix my audio.
The Lucifer rebellion. So let me step back one step. We were talking about the cosmic government. So I want to
Oh, I
separate.
got it back. Sorry, I
You
was
got
just
it back.
monitoring from OBS. If you don't mind me, can I finish my
Oh yeah,
monologue? Um,
yeah. Go
so
ahead.
Lucifer had been alive for billions upon billions of years before 500,000 years ago. So for that entire time, his entire universe career, he was a good angel. He was a highly functioning angel. He got a lot done. He was highly respected throughout the cosmos. He is a celestial being of light, and he earned a high seat of honor in Jesus's government. So there's a bunch of different sectors in the cosmos. All these sectors report to one guy. That's Jesus. His name is Michael. His title was Michael before he became Jesus, and he's the one who runs the cosmic government. There are levels above him, but we're not going to go into that right now. So Michael's at the top, and Lucifer is just kind of like a mayor, a governor of a small sector, and Michael's the president. Lucifer, 500,000 years ago, decided, I'm going to take over this section of the cosmos for myself. All the planets that I'm in charge of, they're going to do my program. We're not going to go with the celestial program of mind, body, spirit progress and going to try to seek the Father. He had a different idea. He kind of thought that it should be a cosmic free for all and the strong man wins. So let's take away all the rules and let's just see the strongest survives. That was a very controversial thing, obviously, and it started the war in heaven that the Bible talks about. We're going to go into a lot of detail about this concept. It's a very confused and blurry concept in the minds of people on Earth today. So we want to demystify that. We want to shed some light on it. And we're going to pull from the cosmic philosophy of the Urantia book.
For sure. And so what about, okay, so when you say the cosmic government, the Galactic Federation, is this the same as like the aliens on other planets? Like they work under Michael, or do they not know about Michael? Because we have, you've mentioned angelic government sort of rulers or managers, but then should we give a quick primer on like how do the material planets with like standard aliens play into this with the Lucifer rebellion? What exactly, did the war in heaven, did that just happen on another planet, or was that like in the spiritual world? Like, what's the difference there?
Hold up. Can you check the audio for
On
me?
the live
Yeah.
spiritual world. Listen to it now. What's the difference there? I hear it. Sounds fine.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fine. Did something change in your settings or something, or?
Yeah, for the so I just put us both on one right now. Yeah, the audio sounds fine. For some reason, when I turn monitor off,
Something change in your settings or something?
on what the stage looks like.
Wait, were you hearing double on your computer? Or something?
Yeah, but now, no, yeah, for a second I was.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
It did that when I was listening on my computer, but not on my iPad. So I think it's just the way that we have multiple applications kind of running the audio.
Sorry, I'm fucking having traumatic flashbacks from the beginning of the live stream.
Yeah, and actually next time what we should do is after troubleshooting, we just restart the live stream so that the recording doesn't have a long section at the beginning that's kind of just bumbling around.
Yeah. Thanks, Art, for that.
Going.
For that feedback. Sounds solid. Appreciate it.
Solid with a capital
D.
some capitalization there. Is that a code?
So you asked me this question. The way it's set up.
Do you want me to rephrase or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like so. Yeah. Did this war in heaven? Is this just other planets, or where did that happen? Because angels are kind of different. They're kind of like interdimensional. Most people would consider.
Yeah. I guess you would say, to put it in layman's terms, there are different D equals archery. Hell yeah. So I guess to put it in layman's terms, there are certain planets that are there for a specific purpose, if you can kind of wrap your head around that. So like, we are an evolutionary planet. We were created through the evolutionary process of a single cell going through the evolutionary struggle, generating a bunch of different life forms, and then culminating into mankind at the very end. We are the fruit of this process, and there isn't going to be any after us. We're the apex of the evolution. We can still mix. There's more to that, but so far, the image of man is the final stage of the evolutionary process. That would be called an evolutionary world. In our sector, we're planet 606 of around 619 other planets that also have humans on them, albeit they might look a little bit different than us, but they're humanoid. But outside of those 619 planets, there are angelic spheres, architectural spheres, spheres that are dedicated to a specific angelic order. And those are they're just training and preparing for cosmic missions. So there's a planet of all seraphim. Seraphim from the Bible. Everybody's familiar with that angel, that's an angelic type of being, and they are all stationed on a seraphic planet. There's probably multiple of them, and that's where they train, do all their legislation and administration. Same with the Adam and Eves. The Adam and Eves have their specific planet. So if you're driving a spaceship around space and you happen to run upon one of these Adam and Eve planets, you'd be like, oh crap, look at this. A bunch of like glowing purple humanoids, but they wouldn't be humans. Or you could run up on a Melchizedek planet, and that planet would be all Melchizedeks training for their Melchizedek missions. You could call them different
Yeah.
ET races and civilizations, but they're really orders of angels.
Yeah, I try and separate these two things because the cosmic government, we only start learning and entering the realm of the cosmic government after we die. So the afterlife worlds. To us, those spiritual worlds are the afterlife planets.
Yeah.
The afterlife, it's the eternal life, that Christianity talks about, but knows very little of what we're actually going to be doing in this said afterlife. But at the moment on Earth, it takes an angel. We have the reason we know anything about the seraphim is that there's been moments in our past that they've, actually incursion into our reality in some sort of manner that allows us to perceive them, whether it's altering our perception into an altered state of consciousness that we perceive them, or actually changing the material energy spectrum around them so that they become visible in a way that technically you could see them with a camera. It's within our light spectrum, it's within our sound spectrum. But that's like people call that interdimensional. They're coming into our reality from some more complex or something. Normally people just say spiritual reality, but technically reality is all one reality, and it's just differentiated by like gravity and energy and atomic orbits, etc. And there's basically, spiritual, pure spirit reality, which is sort of, undifferentiated, all is one. The law is the law of one.
Ooh.
And then there's differentiated reality, and that comes in gradients. And what we consider as humans the spiritual worlds, the afterlife, is actually, what the Urantia books claims is that we don't actually go directly into being a spirit, being purely undifferentiated energy. We actually do, there's a process, and we're in the middle of material existence and like spiritual eternal existence. Because we don't technically gain, the ability to live eternally, which is sort of a matter of like overcoming gravity and energy limitations. It says that our soul is actually still basically, you could say our soul is still encased in some type of form of like limited energy. But as we learn, we start to become more unlimited, and we fuse with a portion of God consciousness that works with the entire universe, and that's what actually gains us sort of eternal life and sort of seals the deal, you could say. So that's a small primer on like some ideas about the afterlife that the Urantia book explains. But I say all this to say that these angelic worlds and what it calls the Urantia spheres, what Jesus called the mansions in his father's house. There's many mansions in my father's house. Um, these are considered spiritual to us, but they're actually intervening, in between material, spiritual, and pure spirit kind of levels. And so we're actually going to get to travel through all these levels, and keep learning about the universe. And the angels, we're going to meet them at some point along the way on the spiritual worlds, but not necessarily right away. We're not necessarily going to have full contact and talking to angels. There's a system set up. There's a lot of teachers. We're going to be learning from a lot of people who are already on those spiritual worlds.
Yep.
And what we're focusing on right now is the Lucifer rebellion, which occurred on those spiritual worlds and affected both angelic leaders and also ascending beings, mortal beings from other planets. So,
Yep. That's a good way to put it. So you can kind of think of the entire cosmos as, for just to put it in very simple terms, existing in three different phases. And there's an entire gradient in between all these three primary phases. It would be the physical reality and then the spiritual reality. But there is a vast distance in between pure spiritual reality. And if you're either pure physical or you're purely spiritual, or you're a mix of both, about 50-50 or 30-70 or 60-40, depending on your universe progression. So every planet that you can kind of imagine is existing in one of these stages. Ours is for the most part physical, and we have a tinge of Morancha. The dimension that we can't see, the dimension that you kind of go into when you're dreaming, or even when you can go into a deep meditative state. The dimension be right outside of our visible light spectrum, where the celestials reside. That would be the Morancha. That's the term that the Urantia book gives us. So there's physical, Morancha, and spiritual spheres. And depending on the types of beings that are on these spheres throughout the universe, that'll kind of dictate what dimensional level they're on. Like a seraphim, you wouldn't really be able to perceive them with your physical eyes. They would be more on the Morancha level, closer to the spiritual levels. But they exist. They can be right next to you. You just wouldn't be able to see them. So Lucifer was in charge of a bunch of different planets and a bunch of different orders of Morancha, physical and spiritual beings. So we can jump into that right now if you want. Oh, but before this, I brought up this quote because when you were talking about how they can make contact with us, they can polarize. They, like I said, they can be right next to you and you don't even know it. This is from the Urantia book, paper 48, talking about the seraphim, the angels from the Bible. The seraphic evangels, or seraphic evangels, however you want to say it, are dedicated to the proclamation of the gospel of eternal progression, the triumph of perfection attainment. On the mansion worlds, they proclaim the great law of the conservation and dominance of goodness. No act of good is ever wholly lost. It may be long thwarted, but never wholly annulled. And it is eternally potent in proportion to the divinity of its motivation. Even on Urantia, they counsel the human teachers of truth and righteousness to adhere to the preaching of the goodness of God, which leads to the repentance, to proclaim the love of God, which casts out all fear. Even so, have these truths been declared on your world. So, this is what a seraphim told us. The gods are my caretakers. I shall not stray. Side by side, they lead me in the beautiful paths and glorious refreshing of life everlasting. I shall not, in this divine presence, want for food nor thirst for water. Though I go down into the valley of uncertainty, or ascend up into the worlds of doubt, though I move in loneliness or with the fellows of my kind, though I triumph in the choirs of light, or falter in the solitary places of the spheres, your good spirit shall minister to me, and your glorious angel will comfort me. Though I descend into the depths of darkness and death itself, I shall not doubt you nor fear you. For know that I am the fullness of time and the glory of your name. You will raise me up to sit with you on the battlements on high. That is the story whispered in the night season to the shepherd boy. He could not retain it word for word, but to the best of his memory, he gave it much as it is recorded today. So that's an extremely famous prayer. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. A lot of people know that prayer. A lot of Christians know that prayer, and that prayer directly came from a seraphim whispering it to a shepherd boy. So yeah, they can exist right next to you. These are real beings, and they're from different planets, and they care about, some of them care about our well-being, and we'll get into that right now with the Lucifer Rebellion. So
that's wild. I didn't know that prayer, that this was saying that this was actually sourced from an angel talking to the shepherd boy. Was that just a shepherd boy, or like the Jesus shepherd?
That's Old Testament.
Like, during his birth. Oh, that's Old Testament.
Yeah,
okay.
That's Old Testament. So that's, yeah.
So he's like, this shepherd boy is kind of like, chilling out in
Wander the
nature,
night,
watching
yeah.
the sheep. Has I'm sure he has some concept of God and religion, whatever was at that time. And the angel has a communication with him.
Yeah,
and
and
kind of
I wonder why he
inspires
picked
him.
this
I wonder
boy.
how he heard it. Did he even think it was some other being talking to him? Or was it just like a moment of like poetic inspiration? When you're writing stuff, sometimes it just flows in.
Start
And you're like,
channeling.
I don't know where it came from, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
And so who knows, what he thought of it, but obviously um, he thought he thought it was something special, and retained it and passed it on to the point that we have it today, which is really interesting. An example of how these sort of oral histories and profound personal experiences travel through the ages, um, and get retained, to a certain degree, even now.
Oh yeah, that's like the badass prayer that all the badasses say when they're walking through, like the fucking the gun guy who killed everybody, and he's whispering that to himself while he takes revenge. That's a famous prayer. It's a badass prayer. All the guys know it. Everybody who's a hard ass knows that shit. Um, there's some famous movies where they say it. It's just cool, and that was given to us by an extraterrestrial. How cool is that? Um,
Angelic
I know.
extraterrestrial,
I'm just using buzzwords, baby. But yeah, an angelic being, not a physical ET from a different planet, which would be a different story, like the Greys. We're gonna make an episode about that coming soon, but that was just a little background story to build up that concept frame in your mind before we jump into it. So we hope you are now primed to dive in to the Lucifer Rebellion. Come on, let's do it up. All right. So, paper 53 from the Urantia book, The Lucifer Rebellion. Lucifer was a brilliant primary Lenonendek son of Nebadon. He had experienced service in many systems, had been a high counselor of his group, and was distinguished for wisdom, sagacity, and efficiency. Lucifer was number 37 of his order, and when commissioned by the Melchizedeks, he was designated as one of the 100 most able and brilliant personalities in more than 700,000 of his kind. From such a magnificent beginning, through evil and error, he embraced sin and now is numbered as one of 3 system sovereigns in Nebadon who have succumbed to the urge of self and surrendered to the sophistry of spurious personal liberty, rejection of universe allegiance, and disregard of fraternal obligations, blindness to cosmic relationships. Damn, that's dark. In the universe of Nebadon, the domain of Christ Michael, there are 10,000 systems of inhabited worlds. In all the history of Lenonenduk's sons, in all their work throughout these thousands of systems, and at the universe headquarters, only 3 system sovereigns have ever been found in contempt of the government of the Creator's Son.
And so that, point this out quick. The angels also have free will, just like us. We, most of the Christian world, some amount of the story from the Lucifer Rebellion. I always thought that was interesting. That because we get in the Bible, that text, we get the humans and we get their free will story, but they're put like on the planet, and then there's also that devil character, or the serpent, who is like already against God, all the way in Genesis, a deceiver, a crafty snake. Um, but yeah, it just goes to show that. And then I guess there's, John in Revelation talks about some of this, but it's
Yeah, I
like,
got some of those quotes pulled
there
up
was
actually right now.
already that war in heaven had already. Yeah, if you got some fire ones, go ahead and rip them off. But that war in heaven had already occurred before Genesis. That's why, and for the Christians out there, like, have you ever thought about this? Why was the devil here on earth? Why was there a fallen angel here in the first place? Like, I think we've never really thought about how exactly that works. Like, what are the angels even up to? And part of that is because we've had a very earth-centric view. We just assumed, the old church used to assume that the earth was the center of the universe. Everything revolved around here. But the Bible is just the story of earth humans and their search and interaction with spiritual reality, their search for God. And so we don't have direct knowledge, of all these other universe events, but we do get this glimpse of these spiritual beings that apparently have some type of role. And the Urantia book says that that role is that the angels serve on planets all across the galaxies, all across the universe, all across the multiverse, and their role is actually to help the mortal beings that reach God consciousness. Here's what I mean by that. So what separates humans from like the lower animal species, dogs. We all love dogs, but do dogs go to heaven? You've heard that question asked, will my pet be in heaven? And the difference between the mind of humans and the mind of animals is that humans are the animal species that reached a level where they could actually perceive and know God with their consciousness, with their self-awareness. Animals have a form of self-awareness. They have a form of instinct and reaction. They can learn. They can even do tools. We have monkeys who will like show example of spearfishing.
Yeah.
So like they can do all that stuff, but um, there's actually it says that the evolutionary program is managed by intelligent beings, and they get these animal species to an intelligent point, through long periods of years, through some amount of genetic influence and interference. They're designing it, but they also want it to sort of unfold naturally within the evolutionary process. But it's set up for that. And then the dominant species that comes out of all the different animal species that were implanted, the whole life system, that eventually reaches a point where, a light bulb goes off and self-awareness, just like it jumps and it jumps leaps and bounds in like certain generations. And that's considered the advent of like the human species on that planet where, oh, they have a complex body enough where they can support a mind and a thinking process that can actually connect to God and can support the awareness of God, about God, the search for God. And so, that happened for us a long time ago. And ever since, the angels have been here helping us directly to keep evolving spiritually. And there's other beings that are also part of that process that help teach us about, how to agriculture, physical reality. How do we build our kingdom here? How do we manage the resources? So I just wanted to kind of explain that, because yeah, it's sort of a loophole, a black hole, you could say, within the Bible where it doesn't fill in those blanks for you. But once you read this story, the Lucifer rebellion, it clicks. It makes so much sense that it's just like it becomes the best story available to us. That's what oral history and religions are. They're stories, and they connect to like a certain amount of real experiences that sometimes are unexplainable, often dealing with spiritual and morality and philosophy. Um, and yeah, it's recorded, but it's a series of stories, and we have to separate, the truth, the human from the superhuman, the truth from the false, all the things that happen over time. But when you read this, you're gonna be pretty blasted, pretty amazed. So yeah, I'd love to hear more Christian, analyses of this, but it's difficult to kind of bridge that barrier. But that's what we're trying to do with some of these episodes here.
Hell yeah. So pretty much angels and demons, they're all extraterrestrial races from the stars, cosmic brothers. Some of our cosmic brothers went astray. They rebelled, and that's what you would call a demon. But they're just normal. They're of the same species and races of all the other angels. That has been recorded through unique texts that have come into manifestation as what we call the Bible. And the Bible is very mysterious and cryptic. It's funny how they even got this information, but somehow they did. But it's so obscure that a lot of people are having a hard time decodifying it. So hopefully we can help you guys do that. Here are some quotes from the Bible talking about what we just started reading. So this is from Isaiah 14:12, the fall of Lucifer. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations. This is from Ezekiel 28:16. By the abundance of your trading, you became filled with violence within, and you sinned. Therefore I cast you as a profane thing out of the mountain of God, and I destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the firing stones. Cherub, that's another type of angelic being. Seraphic assistants. People think of them as those beautiful babies with the angelic wings, like Cupid's a cherub. But they don't really look like that. They're like glowing tetrahedrons. um, and then this is from Revelation 12. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So that's a pretty gnarly one. That's what John got. John the Revelator got. Not to be confused with John the Baptist. But yeah, when he was being a hermit on the island of Patmos, he received revelations. I guess his adjuster was taken from him. Well, his adjuster was transferred to the mansion worlds, and he was given visions and revelatory truth, and he wrote them down. That was a real life ET abduction experience in the positive fashion.
Yeah, some might say is out of body. Maybe he was taken physically into a journey, but it's mysterious. But yeah, when we compare these quotes about the angelic rebellion, you can see you actually see a lot of these sentiments echoed. Now, I wanted to point out that in the Bible, it does have some of these quotes that, kind of claim that the dragon, the devil was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Now, I wonder what exactly they meant by this, because the perspective from the Urantia book is that the angels are already here. They serve on the planet. Um, I think, they don't just go from like between heaven and earth and bring messages. Angel comes from the Greek word like angelos, which means messenger. So it's actually a function rather than a name or an order of being. Um, and so they use that name because their previous understanding was that these spiritual beings would sort of bring messages on behalf of the spiritual realm, on behalf of God. Um, although some people would wonder, why doesn't God just talk directly? Doesn't that happen in the Old Testament? Um, and so, yeah, these angels, they're actually already here on the planet. So whether they were thrown down or not, actually is like the angels here on the planet. Some of them rebelled and joined Lucifer's ideas, and they diverted from the normal plan of how they're supposed to sort of lead and manage the planet. So it's not that, serving on these planets for angels is not a punishment. That's a volunteer mission. That's like their purpose when they're created. It's what they want to do. They want to serve God. They want to serve the creator sons, Michael, and that's how they do it. So, yeah, I just want to point out that that's not like a punishment. This might be some type of, there's different philosophies on, why they wrote it like that or what they understood. Um, Maybe it's just to say though that they weren't allowed into the higher heavens possibly, and so they had to spend more time, on the earth. Maybe rebellion happened, and it'll get into it. We were quarantined. Our section of the universe was sort of sectioned off, so that the rebellion couldn't spread too far beyond Lucifer's domain that he was given, that he was supposed to be sort of managing. Um, yeah, so I think that's probably why it says it like that.
Yeah, they shut that shit down. Okay,
Yeah.
number 1, the leaders of the rebellion. Lucifer was not an ascended being. He was a created son of the local universe, and of him it was said, "You were perfect in all your ways from the day you were created till unrighteousness was found in you." Many times had he been in council with the Most Highs of Edentia, and Lucifer reigned upon the holy mountain of God, the administrative mount of Jerusalem, for he was the chief executive of a great system of 607 inhabited worlds. Lucifer was a magnificent being, a brilliant personality. He stood next to the Most High Fathers of the constellations in the direct line of universe authority. Wow. Notwithstanding Lucifer's transgression, subordinate intelligences refrained from showing him disrespect and disdain prior to Michael's bestowal on Urantia. Even the archangel of Michael, at the time of Moses' resurrection, did not bring against him an accusing judgment, but simply said, "The judge rebuke you." Judgment in such matters belongs to the Ancient of Days, the rulers of the super universe. Lucifer,
Archangel of Michael, that Archangel of Michael thing. I actually
yeah,
think that this is where we get the idea Archangel Michael,
yeah,
that which is mentioned a couple times in the Bible, but I Archangel of Michael ends up making more sense when you read in the Urantia book that Jesus before he incarnated was actually, he's an individual being, and um, he let's see, well, what was I gonna say here? He's the leader. He's not an angel himself, but he has angels under him that work for him, that work, with him.
yeah,
He created them. And so Archangel of Michael would be one of Jesus's high angels.
yeah.
It's not actually Archangel
Michael,
Michael.
no,
So I think whenever you read about Archangel Michael, they're actually referencing Jesus Michael, the creator son Michael, before he arrived.
yeah,
So that's an interesting thread to pull on.
yeah,
Also in Revelation, we got some Michael and his ark and his angels. I think we just read that quote.
yeah, 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 exactly. So within the Bible, they confuse the archangel of Michael and Michael himself. I mean, they do that over and over in the Bible. They confuse a bunch of different beings. They kind of shed some light on it if we keep reading this right now, actually. But let's do it. If you're a Christian and you've heard the term Archangel Michael, know now we've shed some light in your mind. Now you know. You can't unknow. You can't unthink the thought. So now you know. There's Michael and Archangel of Michael. And Michael's a billion archangels, so any archangel that works for him is the Archangel of Michael. But specifically when they say Archangel of Michael, then they're not referring to Michael. They're referring to the archangel that is in charge of resurrection roll calls. We're not going to get into it, but pretty much if you don't reach a spiritual level, a mind body spirit level high enough when you die, you go to sleep. And you go to sleeping survivor and they put you like in stasis and you're just waiting there. And all the people who don't hit a prerequisite mind body spirit level will get sent there. And you guys will all sit there for thousands upon thousands of years until they do a resurrection roll call. Then all the souls will wake up in heaven at the same time. And the angel that comes and does that is the Archangel of Michael. He's the one that's in charge of roll calls.
Yeah, and this is actually supported by some of the Hebrews' understanding of this. They called this Sheol, is the term that they use for the sleeping survivors, the sort of waiting place.
Sheol.
Modern Christianity sort of thinks that, like, they also have this concept of the resurrection that, I mean, it's weird.
The trumpets.
I feel like Christians think that you go right to right to heaven
You
after
go
you
right
die.
there. I don't want to go there, dude.
There's the concept of before Jesus was here, there was actually a waiting period, and this idea I think has died out slowly because after the advent of Jesus, I think people just assume that you go like straight to heaven. But this does explain that there's these resurrection roll calls, and basically when you die, sometimes there is a waiting period, and it takes angelic beings and the cosmic government to actually take all the souls that are in stasis that are still on the planet and transport them to the spiritual spheres, the mansion worlds, and resurrect them. And that's the resurrection. That's the new body that Paul somewhat knew a tiny bit about. So yeah, it's a really kind of a fascinating thread to pull there. But
Yeah, what's crazy is
I don't want to go too far down the tangent.
well, I already did. I looked it up. This is crazy. So I guess Jesus must have revealed this to Paul or to the apostles, and the apostles must have revealed this to Paul. Because in First Corinthians from the Bible, so that's a letter from Paul to the Corinthians. We have a letter that Paul wrote to the Corinthians, and we put that in our Bible. In First Corinthians 15:51, it says, "Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed."
Ooh,
Right?
fire.
Yeah.
Absolute fire. That's crazy. I mean, that is, if you compare that to the sleeping survivors concept in the Urantia book,
Yeah.
you actually, you start to, I love these crossovers because, um, to me, if the Christian world knew the mysteries and revelations that are revealed in this book, they would be so happy, so stoked to be privy to that new knowledge. But with every new knowledge comes the same pains that the Jewish people had when Jesus tried to teach them new truth. It was actually so painful that they did not fully accept him. Where we had a fork. Christianity is a fork of Judaism. If they had accepted what Jesus taught, it would still be Judaism. It would just be Judaism with a
The
great prophet, or
DLC. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, so that's, where Christianity is a thread that broke off because they couldn't accept it. So maybe you consider Urantia a thread like that as well. I kind of do, because I don't think it's going to be accepted anytime soon on a large level. But if you're here watching, you're in the X Force. You're right on the pioneering edge of philosophies and ideas and revelations and reformations, all those things.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's the connection is like even the archangel of Michael at the time of Moses' resurrection. So they're saying it like he was there at the time of the resurrection. The Paul to the Corinthians talking about they'll blow a trumpet, and in Revelation that's what they say too. Remember, the seven angels will blow the seven trumpets, and then the dead will rise, the rapture, or the souls will rise. Just a bunch of confusion in concepts there, a bunch of just a mishmash of different concepts that are somewhat similar, but there's a lot more fine print if you look into it. But yeah,
Yeah. Do you know that verse where it says that Jesus raised the sleeping souls, or people say that he like went to hell and ministered, but if you read the verse, it's actually him like resurrecting these sleeping survivors. It's him initiating one of these roll calls.
yeah,
Um, let's find that. Uh, I think if you search Jesus goes to hell, I think the verse will pop up here. Let's see if I can find it. Did Jesus go to hell between his death and resurrection? So, okay, what verse are they referring to? Scriptural
it's called the
basis.
harrowing of hells, but it's they
Okay,
say it's in like a
Ephesians.
Christian believing, but yeah,
Ephesians 4,
Ephesians
8 through
4 8
10.
through
Let's look at
10,
that.
Peter 4.
Okay, here we go. Ephesians from the New Testament. Um, Let me go back so we can get some
Yeah,
context. So they're
Ephesians 4
talking about
9.
the
Yeah.
unity of the body of Christ. So it's saying, but grace was given to each of us according to the measure of Christ's gift. Therefore, it says, when he ascended on high, he led a host of captives, and he gave gifts to men. In saying he ascended, what does it mean but that he also descended into the lower regions of the earth? Question mark. That's in parentheses. He who descended is the one who also ascended far above all heavens that he might fill all things. And he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and the teachers to equip the saints for the ministry. Yeah, and it goes on from there. So, but those choice words there, he ascended on high, he led a host of captives. That's the sleeping survivors. Those are the souls in stasis of everyone who had died before the last resurrection call. Jesus wasn't the only resurrection call. They happen periodically that normally the angels do them.
Yeah,
But
everyone who died from Melchizedek to Jesus was asleep.
mm,
So that was what,
yeah,
about 2,000 years? No, sorry,
when
6,000
when
years,
you
4,000
said
years, 4,000 years.
earlier, you said if your like mind, body, spirit level is high enough, you don't have to go into the sleeping survivors.
Yeah, you could just wake up in
That might
heaven.
sound controversial, but it's actually supported by two people, Elijah and Enoch. And it says that both of them, like, went up in a chariot of fire. They did not die physically. They were like taken, into the heavens. So that's an example of some real, some real, what's a cool word to describe them? They were on it, mind, body, spirit,
Oh,
in
they were
communion
go-getters,
with
man. They were getting
their
after it, dog.
with the image of God in man. They were getting it, and they were doing, I don't know, big things going up. And they literally, the angelic team was like, yeah, we can't wait for you and the sleeping survivors. We need you now. You're coming with us to the next realm. You did your service here. You learned, you grew up on this planet. But we're taking you with us.
Yeah.
So
You fucking max out your stats, dog. You can get that honorary discharge from planet Earth.
get that VIP, you get that golden ticket to the Willy Wonka chocolate factory.
For real. This more quote supporting what you're talking about. Ephesians 4:9. Christ descended into hell after his death on the cross. Peter 3:19. Jesus preached to the spirits in prison who had rebelled in the past. Just more shit of Christ after what he did, supposedly according to the Bible, after he died. But yeah, I guess every time an angel lands, they'll resurrect all of the sleeping survivors. So the last angel that landed before Jesus was Melchizedek, and Melchizedek taught Abraham. So Melchizedek started the Jewish religion. He taught Abraham everything. People say Abraham's a patriarch of all Semitic religion or Judeo-Christian religion. Abraham's not the father. Melchizedek's the father, because Melchizedek taught Abraham. So Melchizedek started what we considered Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. So
yeah, people just assume. Sorry, finish your thought there.
No, okay. So Melchizedek landed. Anybody who died and didn't have the mind, body, spirit levels prerequisite to get out of sleeping survivor, so it accumulates. So I'm pretty sure like 85% of the planet is going to sleeping survivor. I don't know though. I'm not the fucking statistician.
Changes over time. It gets more and more as we spiritualize as a civilization.
Yeah. And then when Jesus landed, he resurrected all the people that were asleep. So the resurrection roll calls happen every time a celestial being lands. But yeah, we went on a tangent with that. Let's just keep reading. Oh wait, you got something to say?
Shoot. I think I might have. Do you remember what I was going to chime in at Melchizedek? Oh, my grandma. I was talking with my grandma over Christmas, and I actually told her about Melchizedek, because Melchizedek is mentioned, and he's a bit of a mysterious character, but he's held in so high regard that in the New Testament, I think, or maybe it's in Hebrew, maybe it's in the book of Hebrews. They say that Jesus is forever a priest in the order of Melchizedek.
Yep. Hebrews 7.
Because it says that, in the Old Testament, it says that Melchizedek was, he was a prophet, or a priest of the Most High God. So he knows about the true God, the monotheistic God, the Father, that the first consciousness, the Trinity. He knows about that God, and he's teaching people. And it says that Abraham gave like a tenth of his belongings to Melchizedek, because he respected Melchizedek that much. And that's actually where you get tithing. That's why, if you grew up in church, that's why you tithe. That set an example that has lived on to this day, and now they use that as the idea of how do we support the material needs of the church, to have a building and stuff. Oh, let's follow the example of Abraham, who gave a tithe to the priest king of Salem, Melchizedek, who was a priest of the Most High God, who was not born of a woman and didn't die. That's like that's the quote that it says in the Bible. And so that's why the Catholics sort of see Melchizedek order as like a sort of divine order, without knowing anything about the cosmic government, what the Melchizedeks do in the cosmic government. They're actually an angelic order. They still have that idea, in their, tradition and services. That's pretty fascinating.
All right, go to the bathroom.
I think we're waiting for D-Bake is probably talking to some family.
Yeah.
His mic is muted.
Yeah. Sorry. Moving on. So Lucifer is now the fallen and deposed sovereign of Satania. Self-contemplation is most disastrous, even to the exalted personalities of the celestial world. Of Lucifer, it was said, "Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom because of your brightness." Your olden prophet saw his sad estate when he wrote, "How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How are you cast down, you who dared to confuse the worlds? We just read that quote from the Bible. Very little was heard of Lucifer on Urantia, owing to the fact that he assigned his first lieutenant, Satan, to advocate his cause on your planet. Satan was a member of the same primary group of Lenonendex, but had never functioned as a system sovereign. He entered fully into the Lucifer insurrection. So Lucifer and Satan are the same type of angel. They're both called Lenonendex sons. Just like a seraphim's a type of angel, just like Melchizedek's a type of angel, these are Lenonendex sons. And Michael is a type of angel, and that's the highest. And that's what Jesus was. So, all right.
Well, Michael's not exactly an angel.
No,
but,
he's like a super, like
yeah.
he's, for lack of a better
Well,
term, super
so
angel, or he creates the angel. He's just like way up there. He's a
to
paradise
keep
origin.
within to make sure the Christians don't consider this heretic, I would like to point out that the Urantia book does say that Jesus, or that Michael, aka Jesus, is a son of God, and he is a manifestation of the second person of the Trinity, which would be the Son. The only difference that you might have a bit of a quandary with is that um, there is more than one Michael creator son. There's more than one manifestation of of the second person of the Trinity, the Son, other than Jesus, and that's because there's a vast universe to manage and create. But this doesn't actually take away anything from your theology, in my opinion. It actually just expands. There's a larger context. It also answers the question of, if there's other planets, did Jesus have to incarnate on all of them? That's, it's a funny kind of question that you get because, there's a lot of ideas, and reasons behind that question. But I say this to point out that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, it would be the mother aspect of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit. The Son, when the Son manifests into the created universe, they operate, or it operates, God operates as the creator sons. And that's what Michael is. That's who Jesus was. We'll do a separate episode on some of those concepts, but it's really, it makes a lot of sense, because the mystery that we're trying to answer there is, how exactly does an infinite intelligence, infinite God, one who is simultaneously three, how exactly does that infinite being interact with a finite universe? And that's even why we have the Trinity concept, that kind of explains how the one infinite God, how the first consciousness in the universe, or the first consciousness before the universe and time and space,
Yeah. Apparently,
manifest as a Trinity. Yeah.
in the Father, Son, Holy Spirit Trinity, the Son has the ability to just replicate himself as many times as he wants in order to administer to the universe. And they're all from him. It's all him, but he just has to duplicate himself to administer to different sectors of the cosmos. So
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
That's about it. They're all still the same. They're all dank. They're all the Son. They represent the Son and the Father. So Jesus is that man. And these are the people who run the cosmos. They're the creators. They create life. And in order to to become a better administrator, a better cosmic ruler, you must live a life as the beings that you're ruling, so that you have a better perspective on how to govern. And that's why Jesus incarnates. They do the incarnation. All right.
Did your internet change at all? The stream is crazy low quality. I don't think it's me either. It's at 144p.
Oh Lord.
I wonder if, I don't know if your internet swapped or something.
Oh shit, my internet just
Your
went
Discord
down.
seems fine.
No, so I have really low bars right now.
It
you want
looks
to
like
keep
the
reading?
stream is still up.
Yeah, the stream's still up, I think. But you want to keep reading right now? Let me check something out.
Yeah, our audio is still coming through fine, so the listeners they'll be okay. I'll keep reading. Let's see, where are we at? Okay, 5314.
Be right back.
Okay. Yep. All right. So very little was heard of Lucifer on Urantia's Earth, owing to the fact that he assigned his first lieutenant, Satan, to advocate his cause on your planet. Satan was a member of the same primary group of Lenonandex, but had never functioned as a system sovereign. He entered fully into the Lucifer insurrection. The devil is none other than Caligastia, the deposed planetary prince of Urantia and a son of the secondary order of Lenonandex. At the time Michael was on Urantia in the flesh, Lucifer, Satan, and Caligastia were leagued together to effect the miscarriage of his bestowal mission, and they significantly failed. Abaddon was the chief of the staff of Caligastia. He followed his master into rebellion and has ever since acted as chief executive of the Urantia rebels. Beelzebub was the leader of the disloyal midway creatures who allied themselves with the forces of the traitorous Caligastia. The dragon eventually became the symbolic representation of all these evil personages. Upon the triumph of Michael, Gabriel came down from Salvington and bound the dragon, all the rebel leaders, for an age. Of the Jerusalem seraphic rebels, it is written, and the angels who kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he is reserved in sure chains of darkness to the judgment of the great day. All right. Who here in the chat? I know we got 4 people. Who's into Revelation? Because the book of Revelation, you just got some massive knowledge dropped on you that relates to both the book of Revelation and these names. A couple of these names are used in the Bible. One of them is new. You haven't heard it, Caligastia. But this is pointing out that there's actually a couple different individual angelic beings that were a part of this rebellion. And in the Bible, uh, this gets wrapped up into one kind of idea. In Revelation, they call it the dragon. But in the earlier New Testament, Satan is normally the word, which actually is not a primary name. It actually means adversary in Hebrew. Uh, if I said that right, in the Hebrew language, Aramaic, however you call it, Satan means adversary. So, but even in Genesis, I think they use the term serpent, which kind of correlates to dragon, which is later used in Revelation. Um, so they're using those words as descriptors of character, um, not necessarily literal serpents. You wonder why exactly does Genesis say that there was a lizard with arms who got de-armed as his punishment. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that for you, but at the end of the day, we always expect that these were angelic beings. I mean, even the serpent in the garden, even though there's a weird story about that, you still assume that that's a fallen angel actually doing that, tempting of Eve. But yeah, here let's go to these names. So Lucifer, I think Lucifer, there's a history to that name. I think it means like bringer of light. It also correlates to the bright and morning star. But this word itself is actually, I think that's Roman, within the Roman Catholic Church. I think they ended up using that term, and we have the anglicized version of it, which is Lucifer. I don't even know if Lucifer is the name, like, actually, if that's really a great translation directly from the Bible, because it makes it sound like it's an individual name. Satan means adversary. But at the end of the day, there's actually 3 main high angels. Caligastia was the angel assigned to lead our specific planet. You could call it a planetary angel, who sort of leads the rest of the angels. He's the president of Earth, the angelic president of Earth. The Bible would call this the prince, or like the prince of. I think they use that term because they say that Jesus, won against the prince of darkness on Earth, which would be Caligastia. There's talk about this Mount Hermon encounter with Jesus, and there's a great theologian named Michael Heiser who has some talk about this. He has a whole book about it. What was this meeting with Jesus and the devil on Mount Hermon? Because I think in that case he says that Mount Hermon was like a landing, considered a landing site for these spiritual beings in the past before. And the Rancher book does actually expound on that as well. But the last thing I wanted to mention here on my little rant here is Caligastia. This name is not it's new to you, but I would assume that it comes from the root word Caligula, which let me see if I can get AI to explain what does Caligula mean.
He's one of the
Because
most ferocious and bad leaders in Roman history.
ooh,
And
yeah, and
Caligula
that
means
it's
little boot, if I remember correctly from my
mhm.
history class.
It means little boot of a
Hey, look
small
at
soldier's
that.
boot in
Look at the
Latin,
brain, man.
derived oh, here we go, derived from caliga, which were heavy-soled boots worn by Roman soldiers. The name, oh, let's see here. The nickname stuck throughout history through Caligula's reign became infamous for its alleged extravagance, cruelty, and
Yeah,
controversial actions.
cruelty.
So that's clearly, to me, that's clearly why they chose the name Caligastia. They just
Mm,
have a suffix word Gastia instead of Caligula, because Caligula was a specific Roman ruler, and uh, and it was also a noun for like a boot. Um, and then Caligastia is then a riff off of that. But these are, like I mentioned, these are three separate angels. This is also interesting. Abaddon and Beelzebub, those
both
two names
mentioned
are
in the
mentioned in the
Bible.
Bible.
Hmm.
And those are also, let's see, Abaddon was chief of staff, so I guess he's an angelic uh, being. Beelzebub was the leader of the disloyal midway creatures. This is a cool topic, but we won't explain it now. The midway creatures are a type of being born out of the Adam and Eve, or no, not quite the Adam and Eve lineage. No, it was somewhat out of the Adam and Eve lineage that were kind of special. They actually sort of exist between man and angel, and they serve the planet as well. But during the rebellion periods, they got up to some wild, they were like the rugrats of the planet, because they manipulated a lot of humans and could even compel some of the weaker minds and indwell them. That's where we get a lot of the old demon possession stories, which were apparently somewhat true because of these rebellious rugrats, running around the planet, doing doing some doing some things that the humans couldn't quite understand. Um, yeah. So, and then that quote here, that was so fire. The dragon became the symbolic representation. D-Bake, did you ever notice this? It's basically saying right here at the end that, because people always ask, like, are we in the tribulation? Where are we in Revelation? What is happening?
Hmm.
This clearly says that we are in the age where they are bound. We're already in that age. So, when did that happen? So upon the triumph of Michael was when he completed his Earth mission and got resurrected. So that would be at his time of death. He's like, my work is finished. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. And he becomes the planetary prince of this planet. He does not fall, to the devil's, I guess, offers. Um, and it says that this is the triumph of Michael, and Gabriel, his angel, came down from Salvington and bound all the rebel leaders for an age. Now, I think in Revelation it says that it gives the number 1,000 years. Um, so that would have happened. I mean, 1,000 years after the death of Jesus would have only been in like 1,000 A.D. So I don't know if they're still bound. It's kind of up for grabs, but for all the Revelation people out there, apparently that has already happened. So take that and run and try and think through the implications. Um, but that's a little Revelation for you.
Yeah, we just read that passage in the beginning talking about the dragon. He keeps referring to them as the dragon. Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting. And we confuse Satan, the devil, and Lucifer, all of them
Yeah,
normally, and those are three separate people. And Beelzebub is
yeah,
also thrown in there like another name for Satan or the devil. These are different beings, but they're all were part of the same celestial staff, and they all rebelled against Michael and the Father's government. But yeah, so you finished that section.
yep. Now we're on section 2, the causes. Should I keep reading? I didn't.
You didn't read that much?
Yeah,
Yeah, keep
I can
going.
keep reading. Yeah, I kind of I wanted to explain all that to really get that cross comparative analysis.
All right, yeah. What's up?
So Lucifer and his first assistant, Satan, had reigned on Jerusalem for more than 500,000 years. when in their hearts they began to array themselves against the Universal Father and his then vicegerent son, Michael. There were no peculiar or special conditions in the system of Satania which suggested or favored rebellion. It is our belief that the idea took origin and form in Lucifer's mind, and that he might have instigated such a rebellion no matter where he might have been stationed. Lucifer first announced his plans to Satan, but it required several months to corrupt the mind of his able and brilliant associate. However, once converted to the rebel theories, he became a bold and earnest advocate of self-assertion and liberty. Okay. We're going to get into the manifesto here as well. That's going to be pretty cool. So, no one ever suggested rebellion to Lucifer. The idea of self-assertion in opposition to the will of Michael and to the plans of the Universal Father, as they are represented in Michael, had its origin in his own mind. His relations with the Creator Son had been intimate and always cordial. And the Creator Son is actually his father, his direct father. He knows that the Lucifer knew that Michael created him, but it'll later explain that Lucifer did not believe that God the Father exists. At no time prior to the exaltation of his own mind did Lucifer openly express dissatisfaction about the universe administration. Notwithstanding his silence for more than 100 years of standard time, the Union of Days on Salvington had been reflectivating to Uversa.
Yeah.
Mesaverde said that wasn't a word. It's obviously a
The
word.
reflectivators. Yeah.
Remember,
they took it from the Urantia book. Yeah.
They said there are no reflectivators. It's not a word.
It's because like a group took that title
Yeah.
on. Yeah. That's
They
funny.
took that word and kind of ran with it and called themselves, special. Anyway, had been reflectivating to Uversa that all was not at peace in Lucifer's mind. This information was also communicated to the Creator Son and the Constellation Fathers of Nor-Leshadek. Throughout this period, Lucifer became increasingly critical of the entire plan of universe administration, but always professed wholehearted loyalty to the supreme rulers. His first outspoken
Internet dropped.
noticed the stream was black, so I was just trying to find out where it cut out at. I think we only lost like a couple minutes.
Yeah. No, we're back in it.
Okay, we got it cut off right after 5323 Constellation Fathers of Nor-Leshadek. So as soon as it's looking good again, I think
Yeah, we're back live. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, we're good. We're live. We back.
The rebel midway is trying to take us out again. No.
Okay, I'll keep reading. Throughout this period, Lucifer became increasingly critical of the entire plan of universe administration, but always professed wholehearted loyalty to the supreme rulers. His first outspoken loyalty was manifested on the occasion of a visit of Gabriel to Jerusalem just a few days before the open proclamation of the Lucifer Declaration of Liberty. Gabriel Gabriel was profoundly impressed with the certainty of the impending outbreak that he went direct to Udentia to confer with the Constellation Fathers regarding the measures to be employed in case of open rebellion. It's very difficult to point out the exact cause or causes which finally culminated in the Lucifer rebellion. We are certain of only one thing, and that is, whatever these first beginnings were, they had their origin in Lucifer's mind. There must have been a pride of self that nourished itself to the point of self-deception, so that Lucifer, for a time, really persuaded himself that his contemplation of rebellion was actually was actually for the good of the system, if not of the universe. By the time his plans had developed to the point of disillusionment, no doubt he had gone too far for his original and mischief-making pride to permit him to stop. At some point in this experience, he became insincere, and evil evolved into deliberate and willful sin. That this happened is proved by the subsequent conduct of this brilliant executive. He was long offered opportunity for repentance, but only some of his subordinates ever accepted the proffered mercy. The faithful of Days of Edentia, on the request of the Constellation Fathers in person, presented the plan of Michael for the saving of these flagrant rebels, but also was the mercy of the Creator Son rejected, and rejected with increasing contempt and disdain.
Kept trying to give him a chance.
Do you want to pick up on the Lucifer Manifesto?
Hell yeah.
You're muted.
Oh shit, I'm muted. Whoops. Hell yeah. The Lucifer Manifesto. The banger right here. This is what Lucifer declared to the universe. This is what started the rebellion. Whatever the early origins of trouble in the hearts of Lucifer and Satan, the final outbreak took form as the Lucifer Declaration of Liberty. The cause of the rebels was stated under three heads. The reality of the Universal Father. Lucifer charged that the Universal Father did not really exist. That physical gravity and space energy were inherent in the universe, and that the Father was a myth invented by the Paradise Sons to enable them to maintain the rule of the universes in the Father's name. He denied that personality was a gift of the Universal Father. He even intimated that the Finalitors were in collusion with the Paradise Sons to foist fraud upon all creation, since they never brought back a very clear-cut idea of the Father's actual personality as it is discernible on Paradise. He traded on reverence as ignorance. The charge was sweeping, terrible, and blasphemous. It was this veiled attack on the Finalitors that no doubt influenced the ascendant citizens then on Jerusalem to stand firm and remain steadfast in resistance to all the rebels' proposals. When I first read that, like my heart, all the air got sucked out of me. That's intense. So Lucifer's first charge was that there was no Universal Father, that God was fake. Makes you wonder where atheism came from and how Lucifer and the dragon were so entrenched in Urantia. They don't believe in God, they just believe in energies. And that's a dangerous rabbit hole to go down. Energies with no father. That the energies are just inherent gravity and space energy. The first form of cosmic atheism. So if you're watching this and you dabble, you're agnostic, you don't know if you're atheist or not, I'm just giving you some food for thought. Atheism is a derivative of denying the Father, which started with Lucifer. And I had never thought about this concept when he said that, like, the Universal's Father is fake, and Michael and the angels are using that name as a fake name in order to, as an illusion to have control.
Birds aren't real.
Yeah. To control, exactly. They're government drones to control the universe. And I was like, whoa, I was blown away. I was like, damn, that's a gnarly charge. And if you're hearing this for the first time, you might be feeling intense on the inside right now. Like, oh my God, these are like, I could feel the implications when I first read this. That's a gnarly charge to say that God's fake and that Jesus was lying in order to maintain control.
Yeah, and remember, Michael is Lucifer's father. Michael
Hmm.
created with the third person of the Trinity, the Son of God and the Holy Spirit of God. Uh, they work together and they create the angels that work in the universes. So Lucifer knew that Michael was his daddy,
Hmm.
and but so here's why Lucifer was sincere in saying that the universal father did not exist. Lucifer did not have direct access to the universal father. So this is an explanation on how the universe is set up. So technically, God the Father, the whole Trinity, is omnipresent. However, in the way that to the angels that have written this book, they say that even though God is omnipresent and technically knows all, is all everywhere at once, we exist within within the mind of God. You could say um, there's nothing outside of God. Um, it's the way that He appears to interact with the created universe, the separated universe. It appears that He sort of lets the free will beings he created do most of the ruling, most of the actions, instead of so personally like change. God's not changing the weather personally on the earth. God the Father doesn't do that. We kind of get that concept from the Old Testament. And there are ways that God the Father interacts with us directly. One of them is called the image of God in man, which is a fragment of God the Father that actually works with the mortal ascending beings. Um, but Lucifer as an angel, basically, like he couldn't directly perceive God the Father, and he also couldn't actually travel outside of his universe sector so they say that you have to travel to the center of the universe, and then that allows you to exit time and space because gravity is radiating outward from the center of the universe. The universal Father as pure spirit energy radiates all primordial energy and it gets differentiated out from there. So you have to go to the center of the time space universe in order to exit time and space. And that is where you can gain greater access to directly interacting with the universal father. Like I said, the universal father is omnipresent. You do have a form of direct connection through your mind, but the journey of eternal life includes exiting time and space by going to the center of the universe. And at that center, it says that there is and I would say that center is actually, once you get there, you're out of the universe. You no longer are in the universe. It would say that it's at the center, but that's just the access point. Um, and once you're there, it's like the barriers to your subjective perception are now pulled down and you have a greater opportunity to interact directly with the father, and this is how creation was set up. This was intended, you could say. um, and that's the journey that we as ascenders make. Angels, they spend more time looking downwards at the human realms and helping us, and then they do have some opportunities to go up and meet the Father at the very center of the universe in paradise, Havona. Um, but it's a little bit different. So I wanted to explain that because Lucifer may have been sincere at the start. That's what it said, where he sincerely believed that the Father wasn't real, but technically he didn't have like evidence. He didn't have personal evidence. And this is actually kind of the same argument that we make down here, where like because we can't perceive God the Father as being real, because we can't prove it, he doesn't exist. That's the premise. That's like a premise of atheism. Like, how can we say something exists without any proof? But that's also the tension of the universe. To me, it's almost like the purpose of the game of life, the game of time space that has been set up. It's like what happens when you give free will to a subjective being within a time space matrix who has the capacity to know God but does not have direct proof. What happens when you do that? What happens is that that being becomes so motivated by the mystery of life itself that they travel through the worlds of time and space until they can leave time and space and and get greater access to the sort of mystery. So to me, it's a bit like a puzzle game of creation that has been put out here, much more adventurous than what you're probably told in your institutional religion about the purpose of life, the afterlife, what exactly we're doing. That's why we have on this channel uh, a much more excited, I think, attitude about our podcast and the way we describe mind, body, spirit progress.
Yeah. So pretty much he got paranoid. He was sketched out.
Mm.
He was sketched out because he couldn't see the Father himself. He
It
couldn't.
was three edibles in, and he was like, God's not real. He
it's
got
all
paranoid.
it's all simulation.
My dad is lying to me.
Yeah.
God's not real.
So yeah, he just couldn't. He was created below paradise. He was created in time and space in his sector below Michael. So he couldn't get above the threshold of Michael to see the Father. So he had to take Michael's word, and after a while, he started getting paranoid and stopped believing Michael's word. So unfortunate, he wasn't strong enough. But whatever, yeah. So that's what he charged. The second charge. Number 2. The universe government of the Creator's Son, Michael. Lucifer contended that the local system should be autonomous. He protested against the right of Michael, the Creator's Son, to assume sovereignty of Nebadon in the name of some hypothetical paradise father, and require all personalities to acknowledge allegiance to this unseen father. He asserted that the whole plan of worship was a clever scheme to aggrandize the paradise sons. He was willing to acknowledge Michael as his creator father, but not as his god and rightful ruler. Most bitterly did he attack the right of the Ancient of Days, foreign potentates, to interfere in the affairs of local systems and universes. These rulers he denounced as tyrants and usurpers. He exhorted his followers to believe that none of these rulers could do aught to interfere with the operation of complete home rule if men and angels only had the courage to assert themselves and boldly claim their rights.
Ooh. So he pitted men and angels against the higher ups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he thought that the high celestial beings were tyrants, that they were taking advantage of the evolutionary spheres because we were young and we were generated from the single cell through the evolutionary process, that we were kind of naive because we started from the bottom. And he said that how dare these super billion-year-old beings start putting their grubby little fingers on the affairs of us. They're taking advantage of us. They're forcing us to worship them, and they're tyrants. We're too naive and young to understand.
Middle level management got pissed about the top level CEOs who they thought were disconnected from the process and didn't deserve to rule over them.
Exactly.
They're
pretty
like,
much.
I want to do my own business. Lucifer was like, I'm my own man.
Yep.
I make my own money.
Yeah.
We got some comments here in the chat. RC Smith says, so basically he was an atheist. Yes, so the Lucifer Rebellion is sort of the origin, I guess you could say the ancient origins of atheism. And it's interesting though, because, Lucifer, he knows that the universe is big and vast and that there's a lot of beings like involved in creation, but he still didn't have direct proof of God the Father, who the Melchizedek's angels teach about, who the Michael sons say is their father and their source. And he just he didn't believe them, and he wanted to do his own thing. So yeah, he was he was an atheist. He didn't believe God the Father existed, even though he knew, about the creator sons and some of the philosophy and concepts. But angels are not all knowing. So they also have a learning process.
Yep.
And the Jacob's ladder thing, do you know what Jacob's ladder is? I don't know what that is. I've heard it mentioned.
Jacob
that's
fell
a
asleep.
vision, right?
He fell asleep on a rock, and he had a vision of angels ascending and descending a ladder from heaven to earth, I think, or from one heaven place to another heavenly place, one of the two.
Gotcha.
Yeah, a nice vision. That's a good connection. RC Smith. What's up, Adrian from the H? That's Trainwreck from the Discord. That's the homie.
Yeah, I've briefly met him, I think.
What's crack-a-lackin'? We talking about
We're doing these live streams. This is a new thing.
Yeah, we just started last weeks ago. But let's see what the people like. I like being able to respond to the comments in real time, so let it rip if you got any questions. So Yeah. He just thought that the higher celestials were interfering too much and they were taking advantage of the low evolutionary creatures, when in reality, these high celestial beings were the ones who created the universe and actually designed it by a certain template according to a certain plan for the purpose of generating souls at the bottom and cultivating them to the top. That was the entire purpose. It's called the ascension career. And that's why they're here. So no, they're not foreign usurpers and tyrants interfering in our plans. No, they're mandated by the Father to benevolently cultivate us from the bottom to the top so that we become super deities in the future. But
Yeah. Now, some of this ascension career is actually still a mystery because once these souls go from the bottom animal origin and attain eternal life and travel all the way to the Father, and it calls that a finaliter. Once they do that, it actually the Rancher book says that their mission is not entirely revealed. However, it does say that the universe is still expanding and will be populated on extending outer space levels. So, if you want to know what exactly we're doing in heaven, what exactly is eternal life, it is an infinite experience where you are both have your individuality, but you're also connected to the first consciousness. You're connected to God. You know what that is. Um,
mhm.
to me, it sounds like it's a joyful game of creation. It's just expression. It's pure expression out of the ecstatic wave of existence of infinity. It should be enjoyable, I guess, in a way. I think that God has done this all because it's enjoyable somehow. It's not because he needs something out of it. It's like when kids play, it's like they don't need a specific result. They just need to like to express and to like play and to pretend and to think and to yeah. I mean, it's really hard to try and profess the why creation was made by an infinite being who doesn't really need anything. But the best I can compare it to is that, there's a lot of things we do down here, not out of need, just out of joy, out of fun.
Yeah, that's where you have to cue cue the Star Trek intro. You know, these are the voyage of the Starship Enterprise, a 5 year
Ooh.
journey to go where no one has gone before.
Mm.
Um, that's a cosmic career, but it's more than 5 years. It's a billion years, and you get to explore every nook and cranny and corner of the universe until you're satisfied, and then you can be like, "Yo, pops, give me a hug," and the father will come and give you a hug, and you come out and find out later. Um, Number three, Lucifer's third charge against the cosmic government from the Lucifer Manifesto. Number three, the attack upon the universal plan of ascendant mortal training.
I think you missed the last paragraph.
Oh shit, did I
I
really?
think we ended on yeah, I think we ended on the foreign potentiates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boldly claimed their rights. He contended that the executioners of the Ancient of Days could be debarred from functioning in the local systems if the native beings would only assert their independence. He maintained that immortality was inherent in the system personalities, that resurrection was natural and automatic, and that all beings would live eternally except for the arbitrary and unjust acts of the executioners of the Ancient of Days. Um,
This go ahead and I have something to say about this.
I'm just saying, getting my tinfoil hat on. Let's say that government was in contact with rebellious entities. Contact with rebellious entities. The rebellious are heavily
They would
arming
say that
ourselves.
they would say that the higher ups are trying to harvest our loosh energy and our souls
There you
because we're
go.
trapped in a matrix.
Yeah, and
When
take over the
really
planet.
what they're doing is cultivating us to ascend into a greater state of being.
Yeah,
We're on like a little leash. We got not a leash, but not that sounds like we're a pet, but they're guiding us. We have training wheels on.
yeah. And then they would get our
But
military
you
to
can spin it. You can
militarize.
spin it. with a matrix simulation idea, harvesting the loosh
Hmm.
as a personality, as a being that sort of has intelligently created it for a purpose. He said, no, that doesn't exist. Immortality is inherent. Resurrection is natural and automatic. Your energy is never created nor destroyed. You just kind of go somewhere else. That's even like I've heard the New Age echo that kind of idea. That just sort of happens, kind of. But yeah, yeah, it's just we don't know enough about science to know like how to transfer consciousness, but in my mind, you can actually do that because your soul exists within an energy container that is not just your body. All we have to do is know how to measure and interact with those energy fields that make up that container. And it's the reason we go into sleeping survivors is that when our energy body container separates from the physical body, one, our attention is severely altered because we're not used to operating in that state of attention from the energy body. But that's where all the psychic powers come from. Your energy body, which is connected to this field of consciousness. Um, and anyway, yeah, when you die, normally you kind of become unconscious. I think some people can stay conscious for a bit. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's a thread. Just because you survive into an afterlife, that's not going to convince you that God is real. It didn't convince Lucifer God was real. We're gonna be doing a lot more to prove that, ourselves.
Yeah. And in the chat, my brother Davis, what's up, Davis? Uh, you're more into the Hinduism, Eastern type of thought. He's talking about the Asuras. If you know much about that, I do know they're rebellious entities. A couple friends have talked to me about it, but I'm not too well versed in that. So I don't know if you know anything about that.
Oh shoot. I've looked at some of the Eastern stuff, Davis, specifically yoga, because to me that's actually in my mind, body, spirit practice. I was doing Kriya yoga. That's my main practice. So I do actually take a lot of useful things from those practices. Physical presence, they could actually mate with the humans. I think I've seen in the Hinduism no longer kind of exists or has kind of been spread out through the gene pool. So I think that the Asuras are an example of some of these cosmic beings who joined the rebellion and then became jealous. They got their people group, they managed it, they told them what they thought was true. They all created their own system of how it should be done, because they were no longer following the cosmic government. And so I think that's where some of the ancient Hindu stories come down from. They have the devil, they throw him in that bin. So that's it all kind of mixes together. Um, to me, the Urantia book explains it best. But I have not spent extensive time